Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome back to my channel. We're going to be talking about the Owl House and how it's canceled and my anger towards that and Disney in general. I'm not exactly sure if Disney Channel is connected to like all the other Disneys and if it's run by the same exact people, but they definitely feel the same. I'm only talking about this through a bit of speculation and observation. See, none of these are facts. They're not explicitly proven. These are just general assumptions. Let's get started. As of right now, Owl House is one of my favorite shows. I immediately just fell in love with shows that are like isekai anime, basically where a character gets transported to another world and they have to figure out how that world works, live there, you know, thrive eventually, but they don't get there that fast. Once again, I immediately fell in love with the story. Luz specifically, oh my gosh, I love her. I love her personality, her ambition, even though in her world it's looked down upon. They want her to think inside the box, quite literally. She finds this great family, which is formed of like 3 people, I guess you would say, including Hootie. So Ida, the owl lady, she's a witch, a very powerful witch. She's really cool. She's like the cynical older mentor. In my opinion, she's like a grunkle stan, so I appreciate Ida, if you couldn't tell. And King, he's this little, I don't even know, but he's adorable, and you know, he's the voice of Bill Cipher, so I mean, what's not to love? And lastly, Hootie, he's the house. He's an owl that lives in the house. He's the house, but an owl. I don't even know how to describe Hootie, but Hootie is hilarious, just an adorable character. Has no regard for like personal space. That's mostly the characters in terms of the found family trope. Any isekai anime type TV show, you're gonna need to find someone to stick with, and I definitely think the pairing of all these people is just really nice, and seeing how their personalities mend together, it's really beautiful, and it makes you want to just root for all of these characters and their stories, and that's pretty much what a lot of people did, especially me, when we first started watching this show. Continuing on with the story, we meet other characters, Gus, Willow, Amity, etc. There's so many people in this show, and they're all funny. It's humorous, you know, there's little bits of, oh, this is what it's like in our human world, but this is what it's like here. Just seeing the contrast, world building, getting to know these characters, liking these characters, not liking these characters, and then getting there. Amity. And then it was confirmed that the creator of the show, Luz, is bisexual. So for me, that was the cherry on top. Other than her being a woman of color and speaking Spanish, there's not a lot of shows where the main character is a girl or a person of color or anything but straight. So all that together in a beautiful world full of great characters, what's not to love about this show? Apparently there's not a lot to love. Like I said, the show is getting canceled, and a lot of people are saying it's not because Luz is bisexual. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with the sapphic relationship forming. If you are watching this video, you probably already know which relationship I'm referring to. From here on out, I'm probably gonna give spoilers. Luz and Amity are getting to a place where they could be considered a couple. They're definitely flirting back and forth. In the last episode, Amity kissed Luz on the cheek, and she blushed after Luz was staring at her lips, and her pupils dilated, obviously symbolizing love or want or desire. If you're gonna go from strangers to enemies to friends to lovers, you can't just kiss out of nowhere. They had a long road of just getting to know each other, mending the relationships between Willow and Gus and all before she even like started trying to flirt with Luz. Like, it wasn't just gonna be kiss, be gay. Like, that's not how it works. That's not how any relationship works. You need to have some kind of foundation of a friendship first. And once again, from the creator of Owl House, she confirmed that the show is not over. This is not how it was meant to run. I can't do anything about this cancellation. It's over. I'm gonna be saying this now. I'm gonna probably be mentioning it mostly throughout the rest of the video. There's a petition in my description box to help save the show, and in the petition on change.org, it also lists the address of where you can send mail, like actual physical letters, writing in, because they can ignore a petition, you know, even if there's like 1 million signatures. They can't ignore physical letters from the fans explaining why they should not cancel the show. So write in a letter. I haven't finished writing mine, but write it in, because there's a chance that we could save the show. I'm not saying that we can, but we should at least try, because this show is very important. And if you're wondering why it's important, I'm gonna explain it right now and get into it. I didn't always have shows like this when I was a kid. For the most part, I saw either just straight characters, mostly guys, for the most part white. It was just very stale and dry, and the tropes that were in it just didn't make sense to me and how I viewed relationships in general, especially as a kid, you know. Didn't really know how to explain my sexuality or really have an understanding of it, because I did not see it anywhere on any TV. It was either straight or nothing. And then it got to the point where it was straight or gay. Obviously, nope. just see myself more on screen, and I think that's also why I really connect with Luz. And I gotta say, with the show being canceled and during Pride Month, Disney had this whole "This Is Me" commercial where they partnered with the It Gets Better project. I'm not gonna lie, this commercial irks me. If you haven't seen it, probably don't see it. So it featured a lot of different actors from a lot of different shows and movies on Disney Channel, from Girl Meets World, Teen Beach Movie, Andy Mack. They're all queer actors in real life. Let me choose my words very carefully here, because I don't want to sound like I'm like bashing Disney. When I stare at this commercial, when I listen to the "This Is Me" from The Greatest Showman, I just kind of question what's going on here, because Disney has had the longest history of like suppressing gays in their movie or making them horrible characters. It screams performative, because let's really talk about this. How many characters have been openly queer at all in Disney, on Disney Channel, in any Disney movie? Openly confirmed. I'm not talking about queer coded, openly confirmed. It definitely feels weird that most of these shows and movies that these actors are from are no longer airing. It's like the kids who are watching Disney right now know none of those people. It would have been different if that commercial came up when I was growing up and watching all of those shows and movies. These kids don't know who these people are. They're just gonna see them as a bunch of queer people, and nothing wrong with a bunch of queer people, but it does help for kids who may be like questioning or trying to figure themselves out to see people that they already know and already relate to first before they just see a bunch of queer people just in a space together. That really doesn't do much for representation. It's the same thing as throwing a gay couple in the background. The best way I can compare this is with more cartoons. Because in a kids show, you need to add more context to characters, because not all kids can just infer and understand. So I definitely think it's important for a kids show not just make these people background characters, especially marginalized groups, because they don't always have that representation. And Disney specifically, they've failed a lot with their other forms of representation. You know, there's really only 3 out and open queer characters in any Disney anything. Cyrus from Andy Mack, the Cyclops cop from Onward, and I don't know, something from this film called Out. Out does take more of a focus on the 2 characters, I think, and so does Andy Mack. But Onward was the one that was seen by most people, and the cop was a side character who barely had any lines, was voiced by someone who is a lesbian, so that's good. But what does that do for representation? It does nothing. We're side characters, we're background characters, we are insignificant. And once again, with marginalized groups, you can't just do that. You can't just have someone in the background be whatever. Like, that's why so many people got mad about the Sikh character that they added to the new film Turning Red. That doesn't do anything. Sikh people are in the background. They don't play a significant role in the grand scheme of things. That's basically what it's saying. You need to add more context, and you need to have more significance to characters in marginalized groups in kids shows. You can't just have them be like insignificant. That doesn't make sense to kids, and it doesn't do anything for representation. That's why shows like The Owl House are so important, because now we have someone who is bisexual, someone who, I don't know, likes a girl, figuring out what she likes and what she doesn't. So good for her. I'm talking about Amity when I say that. And we recently got introduced to Rain, the very first non-binary character on any Disney anything. They're really cool, they're sweet, and they're like really shy. I love them so freaking much. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh. It makes me so happy, because even if you don't understand who non-binary people are, it's helping normalize at least using they them pronouns. Obviously gender does not equal pronouns. Not every non-binary person uses they them pronouns, but it's gonna normalize it for kids watching, and for those kids who may feel like they are non-binary and use they them pronouns, they're gonna see that and be like, wow, someone's there like me. That's what I'm talking about when I say having these marginalized characters be background characters is kind of bad. And I definitely think cutting the show short and not letting these characters like develop even more is going to be horrible, especially when you compare it to all the other shows that they have. That's not good. There's not enough LGBTQ characters for them to just cut off this show like that. Look behind Hans at the long line of Disney villains: Maleficent, Captain Hook, Scar, the alien from Lilo and Stitch. He dressed up in drag a lot because they were trying to fit in, because, you know, they're aliens. People are gonna freak out if they knew who it was. And so he would dress up in drag a lot. It was supposed to be humorous. Oh my gosh, a guy dressing up as a girl, ha ha. That's not exactly so funny, you know. It just is what it is. If we really break it down, he did it for survival, to make sure he didn't get caught and possibly die. Is that really something to laugh at, or is it something to be like, wow, you did that and you did it well? Other channels are definitely culprits of this, where if there are openly queer characters, for the most part, bad things happen, as in, you know, they die very quickly, they're confirmed last minute. Asami and Korra confirmed after the show ended. How am I supposed to know that they're in a relationship when they just walk off into the sunset like bestie, like actual bestie? Bubblegum and Marceline, the last minute head tilt kiss last episode. Obviously, I know why they did that. They don't want to be canceled before the show finally gets to its end. And you might say, but Cartoon Network's cool like that. Cartoon Network would never do that. Let's take a look really quick at Steven Universe. Ruby and Sapphire decide to have an actual wedding. Basically they kiss and then they're married, and that scene is censored in a lot of countries. I don't even think they air any of the episode at all because, like, her producers were trying to warn her, you can't have two queer characters kiss in a TV show for kids. That's just not right. Like, the kids, oh my gosh, the kids, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, the kids, oh my gosh, they won't be able to handle it. The kids won't be able to handle it if you don't show them that in the first place. My phone dropped. Yeah, once again, I get why people are always saying the kids, but the thing is, the kids are gonna freak out if you've never shown them that before. If you start showing them that bit by bit, they're not gonna care. The only people who care are the adults who make the kids care. They love these characters. Why would they hate them all of a sudden because they're gay? They would only care if their parents make them care. And their parents are only making them care because they haven't seen that representation. The more we push representation, the less the kids will care. Okay, so once again, I'm gonna bring it back to Owl House because I did explore other channels and like different characters across the board. So let's explore other reasons that I wrote down why it possibly could be canceled. It's not popular. I don't have the full stats on this, but I'm pretty sure the show is pretty popular because when there's a queer character, the community comes out in droves. It garners a lot of support just from the community alone and people wanting this show to survive because they know how important this representation could be for many kids and for themselves. Maybe it's healing their inner child like me. I'm talking about me right now. This show is one of my favorite shows right now, and I've started getting into more like kids cartoons right now, or like for like tweens or whatever. A lot of them are better than the teen shows because the teen shows are mostly for adults who want to watch teens on screen. So I'm relying on the kids' cartoons right now. They're pretty good. The concept is boring. Let's look at how they're saying that this show was canceled for budget cut reasons compared to Amphibia. Anne was transported to another world called Amphibia. Anne also has a found family, Hopadiah, Sprig, Polly. Pretty much the same, right? Anne wants to find a way to get home. Luz has a way to get home, but she chooses to stay. In my head, if you take away the sapphic relationship from Owl House, it's pretty similar to just what's going on in Amphibia. Anne is not looking for a love interest, nor has one, as we've seen so far. But Luz, she has a possible one, but if we take that away, then she's once again in pretty much the same situation as Anne. Why would they cut one show over the other? What's the main difference? Oh, she's not trying to go home. No, because there's a certain relationship in this show. I think that's pretty much the only reason why. There's other shows on Disney Channel that they definitely can cut, in my opinion. Bunk'd. Yeah, I know. It's one of the last live action shows that are on right now, but it's not even with the original cast. Okay, so the camera died. Sorry about that. I had to switch angles a little bit and charge it. So continuing on, third reason, no one cares if she's a woman of color or bi. Here's why you're wrong. Like I said, that representation isn't always seen, especially at the same time. I'm not a native Spanish speaker, but I'm pretty sure her speaking Spanish so comfortably all throughout the show, especially whenever she's making videos for her mom. I'm pretty sure for someone who is a native speaker, it makes it feel that much more like home, you know? And it's not something like where in a show where majority of the characters do speak just English and someone else speaks any other kind of language, it's all like, ooh, what is that? Ew, gross. No, it's actually like normal because it is normal. It's what she speaks, and it's what she speaks with her mom especially, and that's why it's like mostly spoken when she's like talking to her mom, and that's why it's just like, it's so And like I said, you know, a lot of main characters have only ever been white cishet guys. Not everyone can relate to them, especially if you're a girl. Like watching those shows, como se dice, it's very misogynistic, sexist, and then you run into like racist comments, offhanded stuff that the writers might not think about, because once again, the writers are white cishet guys writing for white cishet characters, and they don't have to consider any of that other stuff. And then when you put someone who is basically like their main character, you're not gonna run into that kind of stuff. And when they're working with a team of people just like them, it helps make it so there aren't those offhanded comments, and it's not so disgusting, and you don't run into those kind of like sexist remarks. And it doesn't need to be seen as like not normal to have a queer relationship or queer characters. It's just normal and natural because that's what it is. If Amity was a guy, it would be the exact same storyline. It had like, it's no different that she's a girl. It's exactly the same. I definitely think that representation is that much more important, and people do care because they have someone to look for now, and they don't have to keep searching because there's not always someone who's doing all of that all at once, and who is all of that all at once. And especially from Disney, Disney has not always had positive queer representation. The most they have, like I said, is the Disney villains or the side characters whose whole personality is being the butt of the joke, and for the most part, the traits and characteristics that they exhibit are kind of queer. It does teach cishet people to laugh and either despise people who exhibit similar traits traits to the villains, but the villains traits are based off of queer people, so who do you think they hate? And they're not gonna see them as queer, they're just gonna see them as villains, but they're not gonna realize villainous traits are based off of the queer community. So it is queer coding. But my brother specifically, he told me that they're not queer coded. I don't get how you see them as queer coded. It's because you're not supposed to see them. You're not supposed to realize that that's what they're doing. They've been doing that for so long that most people don't associate that with queerness, but it is. All those things are based off of queer traits. The queer community was supposed to see that and realize that people despise, laugh at, or mock, absolutely hate anything related to those traits, which are queer traits, so they hate them. I do blame Disney for a lot of the internalized homophobia out there. I'm not that big of a fan from Disney. I do like some of the things that they put out, but I'm on my last legs. I really can't, especially with how they treat a lot of people of color. You know, we're not all animals. You don't need to turn us into animals. We don't all need to be the spicy Latina or like the super sexualized brown girl. Like, come on, please stop, please stop, please stop, please stop. Especially, most of them are kids. Most Disney characters are kids. I have a big problem with all that. But moving on. This could be a redemption for Disney. Obviously, Disney isn't like the head of how the story is written for Owl House. It's the creator of Owl House first and foremost, but has the say over whether or not the show can continue or not. And I do think from a business side, I know we love the show like as wholesome as possible, you know, like we love the show. But from a business side, if you want to make money, Disney, this is your chance, because there's been a lot of opportunities to have actual queer representation in Disney stuff way before Owl House even came along. Like, once again, Marvel, of course, before that they obviously didn't have openly queer representation, and once Disney bought Marvel, you know, my hope didn't change or anything like that. But then, you know, with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I assumed there could be a possibility of something, because it did seem a little gay to me, not gonna lie, but we didn't, because why would we? There's no need for that. And what's her face from Thor Ragnarok, I forget names all the time, but she was supposed to be bisexual. The actress confirmed that, but they said, nah, why would we do that? And Loki being gender fluid, good for them, but why is he so sexist? Why does he hate women? Loki's supposed to be gender fluid. Why is that happening? It's because they never intended for that to happen in the first place. They just threw it in last minute because they're like, oh, because they just love throwing that kind of stuff around and doing it for cash grabs once again, and to garner more, oh my gosh, wow, wonderful. But like, they don't know how to do positive representation, right? And then once they're handed something that already has that positive representation by someone who's lived that by life, they don't care. They don't care, even though they know that this could be a turning point. They want to hold on to that family-friendly lens, and that to me is only going to make it worse for them down the line when they see more places popping up, once again, other networks and stuff having more queer representation and garnering that much more support for those shows because of the queer representation, because the queer community is there for those characters, and to see their stories and to see how the whole show goes. I think that maybe now they're starting to get it, but they're not thinking fast enough and that far ahead, that they're going to be left behind, because we're gonna start leaving. I know not everyone will, because some people are like ride or die for Disney, not me, but they're gonna soon realize that we don't have to wait around for your like half-assed Disney representation of queer characters. There are so many other shows, Kipo, She-Ra, The Dragon Prince. We don't have to wait for you, Disney. You could definitely do this right now, and you could let the show continue and just see where it goes and see how much support you're gonna get for this show. It is worthy of continuing, and it doesn't need to be cut short, and that should be the last show on your list for budget cuts, in my opinion. And once again, if you keep trying to push back and get rid of queer characters or have less focus on these queer characters in your shows and everything, it's only gonna get worse once you start adding that in. People are gonna have more pushback because they're not used to you doing that. If you just start doing it now, no one's gonna care. No one's gonna care. It's gonna be so normalized because there's gonna be that representation everywhere, positive representation in your shows, that no one will care if there's a gay kiss eventually, because you're so worried about having that representation in the first place. We're never gonna get to a point where it doesn't matter, or where no one will make a big deal out of it. I honestly can't fully explain in words how much this show must mean to other people growing up right now and trying to figure out like their sexuality or their gender identity or anything like that. We can't keep letting shows like this be canceled for reasons like this and having the queer community just be stomped out for the sake of being child friendly. Okay, so yeah, once again, please sign the petition, please write letters in, just, you know, spread the word and prevent it from being canceled. It is so important that it continues. Even if you don't like this show at all, we all know of its importance and we need it to continue. Like, it can't can't just end like this. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me your favorite episode from the Owl House. Like, who's your favorite character? Let's talk about it in the comments. Any other shows that you may have, like recommendations for like positive queer representation, please let me know, because I watch all of them. Kids shows, teen shows, adult shows. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.